No sweat. All right. Good morning, Michelle. Thank you for being here this morning. It's so good to be with you.
Well, good morning, Mary. I am so excited to be here today.
Yeah, so we've got a hot topic on the docket today, and I'm just going to throw it out there. The big question, are you enough?
I love this. It's just,
Just sit with that question for a minute. Just feel
yeah,
that and change it to yourself. Am I enough? And just notice what comes up for you when you ask yourself that question. Hmm. What comes up for you?
what comes up for me is around all these narratives that we've had in the past, or that I've had in the past,
Mhm.
around um, not always having to reach for more. Always, when I reach my goal, is this enough, or do I need to keep moving? Do I need to aim for especially like when I think back when I used to work in an office, right? And you would set your performance goals, and it would be like, okay, I've attained that, but now I've got to like push for more. And even around that time of the year when we would have to set our goals
Yeah.
and try to expand those from where we were the year before, and always having to push for more. And it could be in the workspace, it could be in the personal space, whether you're working through a weight loss program and you may not be reaching your goals in the manner and the time frame and that concept of what you thought it should fall under.
Yeah.
And then that feeling of, well, I'm not enough if I can't reach these goals, or how can I be enough in this moment where I am right now when I haven't gotten to the quote unquote end point.
Yeah. So, in other words, a lot came up for you.
Yeah. I mean, this
Yeah.
has been this has been a really hot topic, I think, lately with a lot of my clients, and so it's really, which is why it's a hot topic for me right now.
Yeah. I remember early on in my personal development transformation with one of my coaches, and she asked me on the call, she goes, just say these words, I am enough. I literally could not say them.
Why do you think that is? What do you think was stopping you from saying that?
Goodness, right? I mean, first of all, we all have these core beliefs that we're not enough.
Yeah.
And I really think that what we do is, oh my gosh, I'm not enough, and then we're going to judge ourselves for not being enough, right? So we're going to give ourselves a two for a punch here. But why was it for me? Well, I had grown up my entire life believing that I wasn't enough and that I always had to strive for more and I had to be more or do more or achieve more. There was always more. There was never quite I'm there. And I remember that experience of I can't say these words. Um, and what that meant to me is I didn't believe it, right? That's how little I believed it, is that I wouldn't even allow myself to verbalize that statement. Um, so that's why we're talking about this
Yeah.
conversation today, because we all have that nugget of I'm not enough, and we've all been conditioned to try to prove that wrong.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter how much you work on it, there's still going to be that underlying, you may find, I shouldn't say there's always, but you may find, even when you've got this whole concept of, I understand that I'm enough, and I understand I'm enough right now, and I love myself the way I am right now, and accept myself for where I am right now, because this is exactly where I'm supposed to be in this moment of time. But there will be times, even knowing that and feeling that you're going to have these self doubts come up that, ooh, maybe I'm not enough.
I agree. I agree. And really, what I heard as you describing that was intellectually knowing I'm enough. Right?
Yeah,
I can look at the data and know that I'm enough, but that data doesn't mean shit if my heart doesn't believe it.
right, right.
So I think what we are working on is is not only for ourselves, but for our clients is how do we help people believe that they are enough? So now they act from that state of, I'm enough. Because when we believe that we're not enough, we've already said what we're doing. We're chasing. What's the next thing? What's the more? We have to prove that we're enough. And there's always so many things that we can do. And I think we get stuck in chasing and proving that we're enough, and we never get there, and we wear ourselves out in the process.
And something comes to mind for me right now, as you were saying that I think is worth just kind of diving in a little bit, is recognizing that yes, we are enough in the moment, feeling that yes, we are enough in the moment, but also recognizing that growth is the key to living, right? Like if we're not growing, we're dying.
Yeah.
And that's one of a foundation principle that we've learned and adopted through our coaching program. And knowing that this is so beautiful, knowing that we can be enough in the moment, but that we can still aim for more and learn and grow because we're continuously evolving forward.
Yeah. So what I just realized, right, in this conversation, the underlying assumption is there's a place we got to get to where I'm perfect, I've got it all together,
Yeah.
everything's just the way it's supposed to be. And I don't think that place really exists. Do you?
No, I
No.
don't. I don't. Because once we think we're there or once we're feeling that we're there, then I I feel like that's the turning point. We're going down the other side of the hill, and we're not going to be as fulfilled in life, right? Because we're not. I know, at least for me, one of the things that really where I find that I just thrive is the more that I push myself and the more that I'm like, ooh, this is uncomfortable over here, which means growth is happening, and I'm going to lean into this uncomfortable experience. Um, Knowing that I'm going to continue to grow no matter what. I'm going to learn something, right? Like whether it's the outcome that you think it's going to be or it's a completely different outcome, we're going to learn something about ourselves along the way that pushes that boundary even further. And so if I'm enough in this moment, it's because my boundary is here and I've hit that boundary. But as I push through that boundary and start exploring and learning and growing, then that boundary comes here and so it's continuous. It's just this continuous motion of I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm pushing forward, and I'm enough as I hit that boundary, but then life starts happening and that boundary starts going further out.
Yeah. And I love the way you describe that because I think that's one of the phenomena that gets overlooked, right, in this whole transformational space
Yeah.
is that our bubble, just think of our bubble, like that's all we know around us.
Yeah.
And so as you're saying, as we grow, our bubble is growing, but it looks the same from our bubble, right? And so I know I've experienced this, and I've seen this with my clients too. Is like, have you looked back and have you seen how far you've come in the last 6 months or 3 months or a year or whatever it is? Then you can see the contrast between what you're experiencing now and what you had been experiencing. But again, why are we talking about this? Well, I mean, it's all about this being enough, because if we're in our bubble and we think, oh my God, I've been doing all of this work and it doesn't seem to be any difference,
Yeah.
your bubble just moves.
It did. And I think as we're talking about this bubble, something just came to mind for me is to really be able to understand that we are human, right? And
Yeah.
life happens and it's constantly happening, right? Like, and the question is are we going with the flow of how life is happening, or does life start happening to us instead of us happening with life? And when we start having traumatic experiences and or there's something that goes completely out of alignment with where we are right now, it may feel like we've backslided, but we really haven't. It just means that we've gone our boundaries and us have gone a different direction. And I think about this with the pandemic, right? Especially the early part of the pandemic, when so many people were trying to navigate, how do you all of a sudden homeschool? How do you work? How do you do all these things under one roof? Because we're being told, don't go outside, don't socialize, don't do all these things. Or if you're outside, make sure you're like keeping your distance and doing that. And there's so many parents that all of a sudden became, they're working full time remotely. They're becoming, the teachers for helping their, not necessarily teachers, but they're helping their children learn in school. They've got to try to figure out how do they have enough Wi-Fi bandwidth for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 people to be on at one time, in their virtual classes and their meetings and all that all of a sudden it just feels like you've gone backwards.
Yeah.
But have you? Or has your boundaries readjusted to be enough in that moment, right? Understanding that you can shift forward, you can shift back, you can shift sideways, right? Like this is a very fluid thing and life will happen, right? But it's not always happening to us. No. We're shifting and moving and flexing with it. So what feels like enough now may look completely different than it did before, or where it may look in the future.
Yeah, exactly. So we can look at this, right, from the two lenses. Yeah. We can anabolic, catabolic, fear or love. Let's just go with fear or love, right? If I'm looking at this from a place of fear, I am always chasing. I do always have to prove myself, and it's a never ending. I'll never prove myself enough. I'll never achieve enough. Because there's always more, right?
Yeah.
So that's the fear stance. The love stance would say, you're absolutely enough in this moment right now, as you were describing. Yeah. In this moment, you have absolutely everything you need. You are who you need to be. You're there. You are there. You're here.
Yeah.
You're here, right? And we want to come into this present moment. So again, if I'm going to believe that I'm enough, I have to be willing just to look at this present moment. Am I enough in this moment? That I can say yes to all day. I am absolutely enough in this moment. And if you can say yes to that, then you can say yes to anything.
Exactly. And something came up for me as you were talking about that is even recognizing that when we're coming from a space of love, we're detaching from the outcome. Right? We're detaching ourselves from judgment. We're detaching ourselves from how other people are perceiving us. We're detaching ourselves from everything that holds that negative fear-based state, and so that's where it's like, all right, my life may look different now than it did 20 years ago, but why am I going to judge myself on where I was 20 years ago and where I am today? Because I'm here today for a reason, right? Like, and I'm not the same person I am today that I was 20 years ago. So why would I want to be that person I was 20 years ago?
Right. And I love that you brought up the detachment to the outcome, because I think that's the other thing, right? Of living in fear is I'm very attached to that outcome because I need that outcome to validate me.
Yep.
Versus if I'm coming from a place of love, I need that love within me. I need to know that regardless of the outcome of what happens as a result of these actions and decisions that I'm making, that I can still love myself regardless of what happens. And if I can do that, then again, I can be in this space of confidently saying I'm absolutely enough right here, right now.
Right here, right now. Absolutely. That feels so amazing. Feels so good.
Yeah. Right here, right now. That's all. That's it. Right. I know I overcomplicate things. I want to be right here, right now, and have it right forever.
Yeah. Right? And it's so easy when you just start going through the motions in life. It's so easy to complicate what
It,
really is very simple.
it is. So I think maybe we can close on this idea. I love where we've come to here. And
I
so
do
I'm going
too.
to quote our founder of IPEC Coaching that says, I am always and in all ways greater than I think I am.
I love that. I love that quote from Bruce D. Schneider.
Yeah.
Yeah, it resonates with me to my core.
So I encourage the listeners, if this has been something that's been noodling in the back of your mind, back of your experience, like I'm not enough and you're always striving and it's never enough, come back to I am always and in all ways greater than I think I am.
Yeah.
Hold on to that. That's self-love. That's coming back to yourself, detaching from the outcome, because whatever happens out here does not change that in all ways, that always and always, I'm greater than I think I am.
I think I am. Yep.
And if there's part of you that still says, "Ooh, I can't do this," then just love that part of you that isn't ready for this yet. That's it.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, thank you for being with me for this morning.
Well, thank you for having me.
And we have conversations like this in the Zesty Life studio every Friday as we come together. We discuss these truths that shift how we see the world. So if you'd like more of this, join us at the Zesty Life studio. Links will be below. Thank you.